Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest of my Mindful Meets conversations. And today I'm going to be talking to Alexandra Willis, who is a qualified aromatherapist. And the reason why I wanted to introduce Alexandra to you is that she's got a wealth of knowledge about this topic. And I think for many of us, we just sort of dip in a little bit, a little bit of lavender oil on the pillow here and there, and a little bit of stuff in a burner. And that's about as far as we go. And when I met Alexandra, her personality was just amazing. So I wanted to put her in front of you. Alexandra, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here, actually.
Oh, good.
It's just nice to be able to talk about a subject that I'm so passionate about and just so enjoy sharing with people, like genuinely love it. So
wonderful.
When someone asks me, I'm there.
And I told you. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? I mean, that's actually what the whole podcast is about. I try and encourage people to come and share. And I don't think, I know I haven't had anyone on for whom their work, the way they interact with people, the way they want to create well-being for other people isn't a passion, because it's the kind of work, isn't it, where it is about a personal connection,
Absolutely,
trying to make a difference. And before we go any further, some of the listeners will have detected an accent, so tell us where that particular accent is from.
I'm from Vancouver, Canada. Don't say the United States, but that's fine too.
Oh, yes, it is fine too. We do have some podcast listeners actually in Canada. Excellent. And we have some in the States as well. So excellent. from the whole American continent. Well, wonderful. And how long have you been in the UK?
Oh, 28 years.
All right.
28 years now. Yeah. So a long time. I haven't lost the accent and I'm okay with that. Some people say I have an inflection, but do you know what? I believe everybody belongs everywhere. So it doesn't, I'm like, I'll go where the world takes me.
Exactly. We love it. Well, we're glad that the world has taken you to our podcast today.
Thank you.
You see, seamless. Also available on YouTube. Hello, we're waving to everyone. Jazz hands going on. Great. So we're going to be talking then about aromatherapy and oils. And I think a good starting point might be to hear a little bit about your story as to how you got to where you are now.
Absolutely. So when I was younger, I was that dip in and out person, didn't really connect very well. I love smell. Smell is everything. You think it's one of those senses that is so important to people, but I wasn't like, I've got to know more about this until, and I used to burn incense sticks and things like that, until I was introduced to some oils when I wasn't particularly well about 7 years ago. And it was a very good friend of mine in Canada who had was desperately trying to introduce me to these oils because I wasn't well. And I kept sort of saying, they can't really do anything. They're just for smell. Yeah, they smell lovely, but there's nothing more to them. I landed in Canada to see my dad, and I had some sores in my mouth. I had some serious digestive issues that weren't going away. And she said, please just try these, Alex. And I was fobbing her off. I said, fine, just to get her off my back. I used some clove oil in my mouth for these sores on my mouth. And the next day, they were literally gone.
Wow.
And I actually genuinely couldn't believe it, Lori. Like, I was like, that can't really have been that. Yeah. They must have been getting better.
Coincidence.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It was my tea that helped. And then I had some serious digestive issues for quite a long time in my childhood and going into adulthood. And I started using this stuff on my stomach and sort of applying it on my stomach. And she gave me some stuff that I could take internally. And
so topical application, but also internal.
Right? Internally. So that when it comes to pure oils, and they have to be 100% pure, and I can get into this a little bit later, there is the advantage to use them topically, internally, and then also through your olfactory system. So I started using it. was feeling really well, like not having the same sort of issues, to get into too much detail. And I said, oh, what is in this? You know, just out of curiosity. And she told me, and I said, okay, and started saying, well, what else do you have? What else do you have? And she said, well, Alex, I'm going to tell you a story. And so she told me a story about her situation. And I think this is how it comes to people, is you hear from someone that it's worked for. You may push it off as much as you can. You try it, it works. Oh my goodness, there's this discovery in yourself. Your body feels better. Your brain feels better, because all of a sudden, hang on, there's a connection here. This all makes sense together.
Absolutely.
And then you take off. And so it was after I spoke to her about the company, the oil she was using. I actually went to their convention because it was free. She was going to take me, and I was going to fly, and I was going to stay in a hotel. And I was like, great.
Ooh.
And it was being at that convention and noticing it wasn't bells and whistles and winning cars and things like that. It was literally science. And I quite like chemistry and biology. That I was like, oh. And then that's what got me into it. But I knew I wanted to qualify in a therapy. I just didn't want to do massage, so I chose to do aromatherapy, did the first certificate, then did an advanced certificate, and then qualified as an essential oil specialist after that. So it's taken years of knowledge, but the passion I have and the commitment I have to people for discovery it's really real. Like, I mean, it's a treat. It really is a treat.
Yeah. So you've been doing it then for how long? Since
So almost 8 years.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would say every month I learned something new about an oil that I didn't realize was adaptogenic, that I was able to use in a different way. And I'm like, this is great. And then when I use it in the aromatherapy spectrum, I didn't realize that one oil was going to be such a good top note oil to a base note oil that would work really effectively for someone's thinking and anxieties. So it's constantly learning, and I love it. I love
I
it.
can tell your eyes are like, whoa. Anyone who's listening,
I know, I'm always like that.
wide-eyed, like a little child going, oh, tell me more. Yeah. Now I hear some terminology creeping in, so I think we should maybe talk about the science. So you said adaptogenic.
Adaptogenic.
So, you need the emphasis in the right place. Adaptogenic. And then you talked about base notes and top notes, and the fact that the oils need to be pure. So because I guess, you know, we could go out and pick something up in a shop, and I guess that product may well not be pure.
Yes.
And I think it would be interesting to understand a little bit more about if we want these oils to help us, and we'll also talk about that and the fact that maybe it's not a self-administering process that's the best thing to go to. Anything that you think is important to keep anyone safe?
Yes.
Of course. Let's start with the science and the background, and if you like, we may, if we've got the odd skeptic, I can't believe we're being skeptics, this is my but if there are, you are most welcome, and we're now going to talk about the science.
Yeah, I totally understand skepticism, because, you know, we're often fobbed off with things just generally that aren't what we think they are until you really look deep down into the ingredient, or until we look deep down into the mechanics of it. It could be a computer, it could be anything. So I totally get it, because I was a skeptic. Okay, so I reach out to the skeptics because I understand you. And do you know what? I actually applaud you for having a little bit of skepticism, because I think you can't just always take everything on face value. One thing I will never do is talk badly about any other company's essential oils. You know, there are producers out there who work their hardest, but don't have the ability to maybe do the testing of the oils that I use. There are young farmers out there trying so hard to produce, and there will be natural contaminants in their oils. So I tend not to discuss other essential oils, but I'm very happy to discuss the ones I have chosen to use because I know of the science behind them. I know that they are the most tested oils in the world. And the fact, one of the big reasons I chose to use them, Laurie, actually was that they are sourced globally. So they're sourced wherever the plant thrives the best, in the soil that they thrive the best in the environment, in the air, in the heat. You know, all essential oils are basically the immune system of a plant. So when you talk about an essential oil at its purest level, you're talking about a plant that maybe doesn't want to be eaten by said dung beetle, you know, so they will exude an oil that beetle will go, no, thank you, that's poisonous to me. And that's what essential oils are. So when you get them at their absolute purest, they are and can be extremely strong, which is why when I'll talk about the oils I use, I always say, go and speak to someone that you trust, that you know is using essential oils that have been tested over and over and over for contaminants and adulterants. And don't believe what it says on the tin all the time until you find someone who can talk to you a little bit more sciencey. If you're looking for something that is really just going to calm you and relax you and you don't particularly mind just because you like the smell, you can pretty much go for anything.
Yeah.
Because
we can sometimes, just because something is alternative,
yes,
doesn't mean it's safe in limitless quantities.
Bingo. So
St. John's wort is the obvious one, isn't it?
Yes.
You know that.
Exactly.
Be careful with that, for example.
There's actually quite a few oils globally that can be quite dangerous to the system, and you have to be exceptionally careful with those. And that will come from a qualified specialist like myself, who will say, you shouldn't be taking this internally, or this is a hot oil, be careful. You know, it will power up in your mouth. Water exacerbates oils. So you do need to hear from someone who knows what they're talking about.
To understand the chemistry.
Yeah, to understand the chemistry, for sure. Because you can have catalytic oils as well that will send another oil to a heightened level. So you do have to be a little bit careful. The oils I chose to go for are by a company called Doterra. Their background is amazing. One of the founding members has been in essential oil science for 29 years, really understands it, but his name is Dr. David Hill, will say, I don't completely understand essential oils. I don't know about all of them. I'm constantly learning chemistry. So it's an ever learning, ever growing field. The reason I love Doterra is it's science led. It's doctor founded, in a sense that we have a doctor called Dr. Russell Osgothorpe, who is our chief medical officer at Doterra. We have a veterinary panel. We have a doctor's panel. So these oils are used in a very wide variety of disciplines that are safe and careful. They are tested over and over. This company is the only company that tests their oils, or I think there might be one other, in fact, a very small company, but lovely, that tests their oils in all different ways, gas spectrometry. There's numerous ways to test oils. And there's 18 different tests that these oils go against. And if they do not pass, the company do not sell them. So,
which is reassuring, because, you know, if we're using something, and of course we want to know what's in it. I think we worry less, obviously, if it's applied topically, but if it's actually going inside us. And it's important that people understand that these oils can have potency, and they can have
100%
impact results unless you're careful and you know what you're doing.
Yes, unless you speak to someone who really understands the synchronicity in the body, the efficacy in the body. Most topically are totally cool, except photosensitive ones like lemon, orange, grapefruit. Those are photosensitive oils. You put those on your skin and go out in the sunshine, you're going to burn. So there are some pieces that seem really simple. Diffusion tends to be the most sort of common way of people using them for feelings of stress or worry, or to help and support in that way. The internal applications and the topical applications, beautiful, but you do need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So having touched on the fact that we need to be careful and there could be negative, let's then spin it round and say, okay,
Go to the positives.
Yeah, the positive. And so how might we positively benefit? I mean, what sorts of things might I be experiencing for which essential oils might help?
Okay. So I would say in the current environment, most of my clients tend to be people that are feeling a lot of overwhelm, need some nurturing when it comes to feelings of concern and worry. That is fairly easily remedied when you have oils that sit well within your hippocampus or in your amygdala for the fight or flight and things like that. You can, when you're a kid and your mom was baking something amazing, and as we're near Christmas time and you've got your beautiful tree up, let's say you love smelling mum's sausage rolls, or you love smelling the beautiful smells of mince pies or whatever. First off, what you're going to do is you're going to reach for things that make you feel safe, that make you feel comfortable and confident, and almost like hugged. Now, those oils may not be the ideal oil that is going to be there for something comforting, but what we do is we include it, and this is coming from an aromatherapy space, in another set of oils that may be top note oils, mid note oils, or base note oils that then hold a safe space within the brain. So when I said about adaptogenic oils, you've got wild orange. Wild orange is an amazing adaptogenic oil. When you think, okay, so I've got it here actually because I just put it in my diffuser.
I feel like I'm going to be tested on something now. Yes, right.
No tests. No tests, everyone. I used to hate tests. So if I'd had oils when I was testing, I would have been fine. So wild orange, you think about that beautiful citrusy, light, sunny environment that beautiful oranges grow in. That raises your spirits a little bit. You know, you're in the land of the sun. You're feeling, oh yeah, that's quite nice. You know. Another route for wild orange is because although it's a top note oil, because it's got a really beautiful monoterpene in it, which is a scientific term, which is hard to explain, but I'll get there eventually.
Okay.
It has the ability to take the body and go, do you know what? You're in this safe space. You're feeling happy. Actually, let's calm it down. Because do you know what? You can relax. Because you know that you're okay. You know, like, oh, God, that smells amazing. Actually, you know what? I can breathe.
Okay.
You know, you can take a breath there. You know, there's lots of different compounds in essential oils, and no one essential oil is alike. And I can give an example. Lavender is full of linalool, and the compound is really intense at its heightened level. Petitgrain, which is the leaf of a wild orange tree, has almost the exact same amount of compound similarity as lavender. So you might not like lavender. You might like petitgrain, which smells like green leaves. And this is where the aromatherapy side comes in, the sciencey side comes in. So finding an oil that brings you some peace. So we're talking about, you know, in the environment we're in now, you can bring that one oil in. Let's say it's cinnamon, lovely oil, beautiful, sweet, fragrant, delicious, warming oil. But then you could add some others in that are super calmative, like wild orange, like petitgrain. And that's where you start developing, you know, oil combinations that will work for people, either in a diffuser, which is hitting your olfactory system, or you can rub it on your chest as long as it's not a hot oil. And if it's a hot oil, then you can put it in a coconut oil to carry it, so it's not so sensitive. And that's what you need to do for kids, right? You have to put things, you tend to have to dilute them and
have to be down in the right medium. Yeah.
So you'd have to do that for little ones.
So it's
sorry.
I really like this idea that you sort of do an holistic assessment.
Yes, totally.
Of what's going on and what might need to be assisted, aided, elevated, reduced,
mm-hmm.
and that you're able, like some wizard, to create this cocktail of different oils, which, as you say, we might just be inhaling, so it's through our olfactory system, and it's just hitting the right spots. And
it does.
And tuning, fine tuning.
It's amazing
and how we're feeling.
It's amazing how when an oil is at its purest, and these are literally 100% pure, they have the ability at that level to actually cross the blood-brain barrier. So you're getting an immediate effect. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna, happen in 30 seconds, but it doesn't take that long when you have a diffuser going for your whole olfactory system to inhale and take the oil through your body in about 20 minutes. So it's really, really effective. There are some essential oils out there that can really get to the cells of the body and start working them so that they're not fighting each other. That they are at rest with each other. So you're not sitting there constantly having this going on. And you will know this, and many people probably listening will know this, is that your gut is actually as an equal part to this brain. Your gut is very, very important. And when it comes to ingestion, this is where your gut gets involved. This is where it's like, oh, okay, that ginger, this is a classic for a lot of people when they feel unwell, or peppermint. Wow, that really calmed my stomach down quite a lot. Now that may work if someone's applying it. Sorry, you can't see my hands rubbing on my stomach, but you're applying it to your stomach topically, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of peppermint, a little bit of coconut oil. Then you take the peppermint and you inhale it through your olfactory system. You've got double connection working for your body, where your body's actually just able to just calm right down. So it's super efficient. They're so efficient because we're carbon and so are they. So it makes sense that they work in our bodies.
Because there's that natural connection.
Absolutely. These are millennia old.
So they're speaking the same language, aren't they?
Yes, basically. Now, for some people, they might not like woody oils. They might think, oh, I don't like the smell of a sauna or a cedar wood sort of type smell, or an arbor vitae or one of those. Well, do you know what? Some of the flower oils can still do the same thing for the body. So this is why in the aromatherapy, you need to know what to have similar compounds. Not all of them are, like I said, going to be the same, but similar compounds, but also bringing in an oil or a blend or something. It might even be, I know this is going to sound crazy, apple cider vinegar. People love the smell of apple cider vinegar. It might just be saying to someone, ingest a little bit of that in water and then try this oil. There's a natural way that your body will come together, tolerate, and work in unison with you to feel a response, which is great. Now, some people, a smell can be a placebo. Well, if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But did it work? Yeah.
Did you get the outcome that you were looking for?
Exactly. It's a really I find it fascinating the amount of people I see for different things. Like, I do therapy for a wide range of things, wide range of illnesses. But it's amazing. One person may have the same thing as the other person, but wow, their blends or the oils they want to use couldn't be more different, but they're still as effective.
And how do you decide that? How do you get to that point?
So that's talking to the client. That will be talking to the client and going through, I tend to go through childhood memories, their favorites. things that they didn't like. So I actively look for fears and loves. And then I'll talk about what sort of environment did they grow up in. If it was a city environment, I talk about all the senses that they may have encountered, trips they've taken, past relationships that they've had, because often, it sounds crazy, a past relationship that may have been detrimental will have a smell involved.
Oh, I have to share here. I have to share what's come to mind. So I had a relationship. I'm just when I think I was probably in my 20s, and it was okay, but it wasn't brilliant. And it kind of ended rather unceremoniously over dinner.
Right.
I remember, and this person said, I've actually asked my ex-girlfriend to marry me. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Right. Anyway, that's an aside. But the reason why I bring this is I know we're all going a bit hot and cold here now, but I remember at the time I was wearing, I think it's Yves Saint Laurent, is it Paris, the one that's blue and silver, kind of circles, and it's really, really strong. I'll have to try and find it. Anyway, the point is, whenever I smell it, even now, and people will know I'm 60, so this is a long time ago. Whenever I smell it, I go back to that moment, and my stomach turns over. So I cannot be anywhere near that perfume. Yeah.
And there will be certain oils in that perfume that if you smelt them in my office, you'd go, oh no.
Can't get anywhere near that one.
This is why I have to go, I do have to do a fairly thorough check, because I don't want anybody to have that feeling of
yes, a reminder of a negative feeling or experience.
Yeah, and there's also medical stuff.
Yeah.
I have
rather evoke a happy childhood memory, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Seaside holidays with a family, or
I know,
even if
right?
it's like we did, staying in a damp caravan in Swanage, maybe there's an oil that
I bet cedarwood, you'd love it.
Yeah, but and of course that's going to be individual and personal to everyone, isn't it?
100%. You have to worry about people's skin sensitivity, so I have to ask about questions about medical past, eczemas, things like that. You do have to be very careful of how you're bringing these oils to people, which is why, again, I always say, if you're looking for someone to really nurture you, go to someone that you trust, go to someone that has qualified. I think that's very, very important. Someone that can talk to you maybe the way I'm speaking today, because a big part of losing a part of that nervousness or that stress or that overwhelm will be knowing that the person you're coming to is good.
Yes, and that you trust them and that you feel safe in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because we need to feel confident, and don't we, about these things, and we need to feel looked after, and particularly if it's a little bit of a stretch for some people, which it might be. But I think it's so interesting. I've spoken to other practitioners on the podcast, but there is a whole wealth of opportunity out there outside of orthodox medicine, which of course has its place, absolutely,
100%.
But things that might enhance or add or to that, or mean that in fact there are other routes for us to go, and we don't actually need to have something prescribed in more of an orthodox way, but just to experience these things which really are not going to be counterproductive.
No, never.
But it's always worth trying something, especially when it's of such an holistic origin, and basis, because I imagine that people might come to you with one thing and you prescribe your magical cocktail, and they find that other things have also
Yes.
themselves or improve.
I have
Do you find
whole
that? Mm.
families where sometimes it might be the dad or the, someone that is usually in charge comes to me first.
Yeah.
And then, well, actually, then I should say it's the mom, trouser wear. But all of a sudden they'll say, well, actually, this was really beneficial. Do you have something for this? And I'll say, yes. And let's talk about it. I mean, sometimes I might not. I mean, I'll say, go to the doctor, like my son broke his hand. Yes, of course, I put pain relieving oils on his hand immediately, but of course I took him to the hospital. So, I will direct in the right way, but then they'll say, would you mind speaking to my son or daughter or, my sister and I have whole families who have totally different things that we don't talk about anyone else, because of right to privacy. But then it's really funny. I have a wonderful family. I think they have about 6 diffusers in their house.
Wow.
Everybody has one in their own room.
Their own.
Yeah, and
Cocktail.
yeah. And when I say diffusers, because earlier it mentioned about burning oils. If you've got pure oils that you're working with, you never ever want to heat them up. That is basically like killing the tree. So you're killing any sort of effective compounds in the plant to support the body. So you will always be using a water diffuser. I mean, don't know if this one will stretch, but let's here. It's not going to stretch, so I'll unplug it. But anyway, this is a diffuser. It just had a light on, and it poofs out, and it's
so let's
water
describe it. So it looks like 2 halves of a shell.
Yes, and you can get lots of different kinds.
Yeah.
And inside is water.
Yeah.
And you put your essential oils in, you cover it, you turn it on, and then it diffuses into the air.
Right. Rather than drops on top of a burning candle.
You might as well just be burning your oils. Okay. And if an oil is worth its
weight in oil,
then they're not going to be super cheap, but they will be very effective in smaller quantities.
See, this is really, really helpful because I would have thought, oh well, I can just use my normal wax melt burner and stick a few in the top and away I go. Yeah.
Well, you could for other oils that you may find in other places.
Yes.
When I talk about purity and these oils, absolutely not. It would be such a waste of money. Yeah. It's like when I cook with them, I always, unless I know it's, let's say for some sort of lemon pudding or something like that, or a cake, I always add them at the end of the cooking process. So I'm not boiling the goodness out of them, but I'm getting the hit of delicious flavor.
So if you were putting them in a cake?
Yes. So in a cake, that's a totally different ballgame. So I often make a lemon loaf. So I put in quite a lot of lemon, probably 5 or 6 drops of lemon oil for a beautiful lemon cake. But what I will do then is make a beautiful icing with lemon oil in it also. So then you're getting some goodness. Now, look, I'm not so crazy that everything has to have goodness in it. I just mean that I really like the flavor. So here's a lovely little one for all of you. A polar bear hot chocolate is hot chocolate that you mix I drink oat milk, mix the oat milk in the bottom, 1 drop of peppermint, mix it in with that. I do 90-degree water so that you're not killing off the peppermint, and a bit of Bailey's.
Ooh.
Now, that is so tasty. It's so good. But at the same time, you're actually clearing out your nasal passages, and you're getting a hit of, I'm ready for the day. It's just a lovely hit.
That's exactly what we need in gloomy January, which is when we're putting this out. And if you're listening in the summer, write it down and save it for the winter, because that's a really, really good one. Yeah.
Good. A delicious drink in the morning is 3 drops of lemon oil. So then I only boil to 70 at this point, and I've got one of those kettles. 3 drops of lemon oil and 1 drop of peppermint. That sets me up for the day. Lemon oil is particularly good for breaking down uric acid and things like that. and also very good for breaking down plastics in the body.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ingest plastics daily, from taking our bread out to water bottles, whatever. Anyway, it's particularly good for that. So really good for working well for hormones so that you're not getting clogged up. But I have lemon and peppermint with 7, and I just drink that, and it's like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, that's nice. And fennel, fennel is so good. Fennel after dinner, and you're all feeling all puffy and brr, and you just have 1 drop of sweet fennel, and it's just, oh, delicious.
Oh, we're living it with you. We're there. I mean, it just sounds fantastic.
I'm mad for things like this. Like I have, this is a coffee, and I have cinnamon in here. And that's just a really beautiful taste, but really good for balance and immune system. So, immune system support. So I mean, I don't use them all the time, but I do have oils in my kitchen, which I use all the time, including lavender, because I'm very well known for burning myself. I don't know, must have, maybe I need an oil for balance, actually. But lavender is nature's natural antihistamine. So you put lavender on a burn straight away, and it's like magic. It is incredible. So I have them I place them where I like them, that I know I'm going to use them, so that I'm not wasting them, as well. You don't want to have these oils in your home and they're expensive and you're not using them. You want to be using them to just be working with your body all the time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I can see that it's such a fascinating thing to start to learn what actually works for us. So with the guidance of someone like you. And do you find that then once people start using them, they just want to use them forever? Do you think, or sometimes in terms of sort of stress and overwhelm, is there an end point? Do people get to a point where they...
For some people, there is an end point, of course, 100%, like everything. I would say I'm very lucky. I have a fairly high retention in clients because I think I possibly educate on them slightly differently than others. And it doesn't mean that anybody's right or wrong. It's just I really enjoy teaching people how to incorporate them for long-term use. Everything that we do in our health, we really need to be looking at long-term. Now, there are numerous environmental impacts happening. Then there's, the general overall impact of, politics and things that stressors can really affect your body. So I tend to educate on long-term. But yes, there are some people that will come for something very specific. I can't really compliantly talk about a lot of things, but they might come for something really specific to do with pain in the foot, and we'll deal with it. And they'll also maybe receive medical intervention, and then that's them, and they're done. But they will always come back for something else. It doesn't mean that they're going to use them long term. I think,
but I can see that if someone engages with them and they make a difference, why wouldn't you carry on?
Yes,
doesn't make
it's sense. A big deal for people. They love having a diffuser going. Some people, once they start a diffuser, they can't imagine their lives without a diffuser. So we are a home of 6 diffusers, because we all have one in our bedroom. I have one in my office, so does my husband, and then one in the living room, right? So we do have them going most of the time, but now we're so used to the beautiful smell, and like there's the Christmassy smells that are available now. But in January, you want things that are warming but uplifting, because January and February can be really hard.
Oh yes, I mean, the other day I was talking about seasonal affective disorder. And those of you listening who've listened to lots of my podcasts, you'll know that there's one with someone called Nina Sheldon, and she talks all about that. And this is real. This whole light nutrition thing is absolutely real. So oils can actually help us with how we're feeling during those darker months.
Absolutely. My son has a light one of my sons has a light that he needs to use. And then he diffuses very specific oils.
Yeah.
That I
and then
think
also, before we started talking, you were saying also that you can influence the immune system with them, and we're putting this out in the winter.
100%. Absolutely.
So, you know, that's quite topical.
There's one specific oil blend that Doterra do called On Guard, and it's in pubmed.com. It has been researched to the nth degree. It's cinnamon, clove, wild orange, eucalyptus, and of course I was going to forget the last one. Can't remember. Anyway, it's a blend, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it does smell a little bit Christmassy. But all of the oils in there can influence a balanced and safe immune system. You don't ever want your immune system to be heightened, because if you get sick, so this was a big thing within the last few years, what we've gone through. People were trying to heighten their immune system, but then of course the illness was taking hold of that immune system and trashing the body. You want a balanced immune supported system. So as soon as those 2 years ago came out, that blend oil sold out.
Interesting.
It was gone. You couldn't get it for love nor money.
And that's called On Guard.
On Guard. It's I don't know.
Guard, as in the French.
Yes. No. No, not with a. No,
well,
it's not.
That's kind of what it feels like, right?
I know.
Okay,
On Guard.
And
they have a whole line that they do, toothpaste and the whole 9 yards. But
it's so fascinating.
It's great. I love it. I find it. Do you know what one of my favorite things is having a skeptic come to me and supporting them, and then they go tell other people. That's one of my favorite things. I even have, because I have a global team of people that I work with. I even have a member of my team who was the biggest skeptic, who is now the biggest fan, who has her own team. You know, so it's and it's lovely. And I was that person to my best friend. She was my best friend. I was going, would you leave me alone? And then as soon as I was like, oh, and do you know what, Laurie? If you told me 8 years ago that I would have got 2 qualifications in aromatherapy, an essential oil qualification, and be doing this for a living, I would have said, give me a break. You know, I was a city bird. You know, so it's
because it matters, because it works, because you believe in it, because you've got the evidence, and because you love trying to help people feel better through this.
100%.
Yeah. Well, on that note, why wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah.
So, as with all my guests, I will put some details in the blurb. So if people want to find you and want to talk to you about it, get my words out, talk about it to you, they can find you via the links that I'm going to put on, and they can have a chat, and they can explore, and then they can get some really sound information, some sound advice, some sound knowledge, and a product through you. There are other products out there.
Absolutely.
Which is pure, and which you have had really good success with.
Yeah.
But it is a really, I think it's a bit of a hidden gem, I think, in terms of the breadth of impact that it can have.
It really is.
People. Yeah.
It really is, Laurie, because of how they're delivered in our system.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Talking about it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. Alex, thank you so much for joining
us
today. Time flies. It's amazing, isn't it?
I know. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. So, as I say to everyone, I will put the information there. If you want to get in touch with Alex and you haven't got access to that blurb, then you can find me on my website, themindfuleatingclinic.com, and I will put you in touch with Alexandra so that you can continue this conversation. So, we are going to say goodbye. Bye, Alexandra.
Goodbye.
And bye from me, and I will see you next time on the Mindful Eating podcast.